Don't piss me off.
Boo.
Boo. Put on a shirt. I'm Max.
And I'm Harjot.
Join us as we discuss the latest scroll-stopping content.
This is Scroll Interrupted. Listen, if we had a shoe cam or like a
This
feet
is
cam,
the show. This is a different show.
Yeah. You wish.
Hi, I'm Max, and I'm panicking. I don't have anything prepared.
Wow, thank you for that extremely awkward introduction. My name is Harjot, and I'm just happy to be here.
On this earth today with us. Oh.
Me fighting the urge to tell everyone that I have cancer yet again. That's the only introduction.
It's your nervous tick.
Imagine meeting somebody in person for the first time, me, and they shake your hand, they're like, hi, I have cancer.
Do you want me to introduce you like that? To any person?
We're at an event, and
Yeah.
like, this is my friend, he has cancer.
Really like loud whisper?
Yeah.
All right, today, what are we talking about?
Unfortunately, Beyonce's children. Trying not to, but we're reacting to the discourse on Beyonce's children.
Okay.
Which is kind of unfortunate. But then we're getting into some influencer hate.
We are talking about love, the latest hot couple on TikTok. Fad diets, I think that's what they're called, right? Fad diets?
Mm-hmm.
Fad diets, and then we're talking about like tariffs and China,
Oh,
but not
God.
in a boring way. Not in a boring way. I swear. So we'll get.
We're not going
into
to get
that.
too political, but I
No.
think we'll get political enough.
Yeah, in the way that I guess we're interested in politics and how it affects our lives. All right, so there's this couple that has just been in the minds and the muse and inspiration
Beloved.
to a generation of women, and the couple is a same-sex couple, Darshen and Samuel, and it's just this like beautiful celebration of their love through the way that Darshen is just so doted upon and taken care of by their partner Samuel.
My name is Samuel and I carry the passports and the cash. Don't rob me.
My name is Darshan.
He's
My
just
name is
happy to be
Samuel
there.
and I brought all the medications for the trip.
My name is Darshan.
Giving poses.
My name is Samuel and I
Angles.
packed the power bank and the cables.
My name is
They're
Darshan.
Both just beautiful.
My
Yeah.
name is Samuel and I brought out the umbrella and the SPF.
My name is Darshan.
My name is Samuel.
So like everybody
He's not
just
lifting a finger.
everybody loves that, and they've made more content around like how this is what they like, how their relationship works, and a lot of people have just like loved it because they obviously would love to be in a relationship, especially women who, you know, more often than not they're the ones in charge of emotional labor.
Sure.
So then I started to see other creators really fall in love with Darshan and Samuel, them as, you know, inspiration for what they want.
Listen, if this works for your relationship, like look at how happy they are in every single like video.
Yeah.
Even Samuel, who's doing a lot of the
Smiley, relaxed,
physical
happy
labor and,
yeah.
and even the intellectual labor, maybe.
Yeah.
Not intellectual, but who's
You just called
sorry.
Darshan.
No, who's maybe doing a lot of the planning and stuff like
Yeah,
that too.
yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
he seems like he's happy to be there too.
Yeah, it's
Listen,
a-
do I sometimes wish that I led a life where my feet never touch the ground? Sure.
Carry me. So then you're seeing people who are just like really into this couple and the dynamic and creating these.
Oh, not the AI morph.
Comments are like, Darshan is not just a name, it's a lifestyle.
It is a
Right?
lifestyle.
And then like you'll see another one. What do you bring to the table? Me? Like Darshan.
That was such a smooth transition.
It's so crazy. Darshan's just sitting there. We're all obsessed with Darshan. Like Darshan is a lifestyle. Baby Darshan doesn't bring nothing to the table but him. Like exactly, Sir Samuel doesn't ask about tables.
Listen, it kind of makes you wonder, like, what is the Darshan that we don't see in front of the camera? Maybe he's really giving his partner
Yeah.
like good conversation. Maybe he's giving him like, you know, good romance.
So obviously, as they become more popular and people are following them, and you know, as the internet does when they, you know, become interested in any creators,
Obsessed.
they start to dig into their lives, and there was just like a whole bunch of ridiculous things. Like people were like, Samuel's married to a woman, and it was fake. They're actually like a couple.
Oh,
and then,
okay.
And then there's like negative people like, oh, so Darshan doesn't do anything, and then so like Darshan made a video of like the extensive like volunteer work that he does around the world, and like he's a good person too. And like, yeah, Samuel's a doctor, by the way. Like Samuel's not, it's Dr. Samuel, by the way.
Damn.
So that's why like everybody has just really fallen in love with this couple. So far, nothing problematic seems to have come up, but
We'll continue to watch.
I think what's even more interesting is, you know, Darshan and Samuel are obviously a same-sex couple, so those gender roles are not assigned to them as they are like expected of most relationships. And whenever it comes to like 50-50, most of the time it's like 50-50 financially and then 100 and 0 emotionally.
But also to the people that are maybe reacting negatively to this, like this is social media.
Yeah,
it's just for fun.
it's for funsies.
Like, don't take it too seriously. Stop digging into people's tax papers.
I know, it's for funsies. And I just love that most of their fans are like straight women. You know,
I'm sure.
They're feeling so empowered, and they're like, that love is out there. That love is out there, and I want it.
Good for you.
Yeah.
All right, so we've probably seen that video all over social media featuring Beyonce featuring her daughter, Roomie Carter.
Yeah.
So Roomie Carter is one of the two twins. So Blue Ivy is like the eldest daughter.
And that's the one we see most of the time in her shows.
Yes, she's the one who dances and almost seems like the second coming of Beyonce.
Yeah,
if she
everybody's
chooses
so excited about
and
her.
wants to, you know, be a performer, I'm sure there will be an incredible career in front of her. So in these videos, we see Roomie Carter now being brought out onto the stage, and a lot of people have decided to whip out their armchairs and lend us their unsolicited psychological diagnosis. So a lot of people, and you know, trigger warning for people that, you know, don't want to discuss psychological diagnoses and children, you know, a lot of what the internet's armchair psychologists have been doing is just that. They have been taking a look at Roomie Carter and how she sort of presents herself on stage, which is just excited.
Yeah.
She's a young child.
She's very young.
Her mother is like globally famous and a superstar, and for her not to be excited and to, you know, be...
She's on a stage literally where the energy and people are cheering.
I know.
That's crazy. Like when my mom came to my first grade class, I was so proud and excited. Like I know I wasn't acting my normal shy, quiet self. I was like, oh my God, my mom is here. But like her mom is Beyonce, and like probably it's hitting her at the same time. Like, what? Everyone else knows my mom and knows me?
Yeah, so people have started to say that, you know, she has autism or that she's on the spectrum, which is incredibly problematic. I'm like, let children live. Like, A, it's not your child. Also, you know, I guess in a certain way, like you're lucky that Beyonce is, you know, showing her children to the world, since a lot of like super fans and a lot of people that have prying eyes want to see, you know, what children look like, children of famous people look like, which is really weird. So it is really bittersweet. But I want you to take a look at this video by Crutches and Spice, who's a very popular TikToker who posts a lot of great content on accessibility and disability.
Yep.
She's so cute. Oh my God,
like,
Roomie
what,
Carter
6?
is never beating the autism allegations. Because she can't. Because she quite literally can't. That's kind of the point. Here's a little crash course in eugenics, anti-blackness, and ableism. What a lot of people don't know about ableism is that it doesn't just apply to disabled people.
Yep.
In fact, you don't have to have a diagnosis at all or a disability at all in order for ableism to impact you. That's kind of the point. And disability is not just informed by having a diagnosis at all. It's informed by normalcy, or the ability to act normal. And in a white supremacist society that defines what normal is, it's whatever they say it is. The project of eugenics is not just about eradicating the lesser people like myself, like people with disabilities. It's about attaching disability to marginalized communities in order to slate them for eradication.
She makes some really good points here. So there's some like intersection of like racism, even the topic of eugenics that she talks about, which is like really fascinating, and how we sort of attribute or diagnose people from certain communities, again, in her words, to slate them for eradication. And so it is very telling that like people would do this with you know, a black performer's black child,
yeah.
you know, and is it happening for a specific reason with a specific agenda? You know, also, what is the need and desire to sort of go about doing this? Criticizing somebody's children, but then also maybe it's, even if it's not criticism, it's still like, you're not a psychologist, why are you making a diagnosis? Or also reducing and even turning a certain disorder into something that you feel like you can recognize by what you
looking at
look
them.
looking for stereotypical signs
Yeah.
of some kind of condition.
I just felt so uncomfortable. Like I didn't see this particular stitch but I saw the original video, and another creator just like commenting on how many people are just talking about Rumi, and I can't even imagine like being Beyonce or like anyone in the family, you know, even like Blue Ivy, who I'm sure is like old enough to get on TikTok, and people are talking about a child. It just felt so uncomfortable and weird. Like it turned a moment where I didn't know where the video was going, and I just saw the video and her mom is there, and it's like, oh, okay. Oh, they're revealing her. They're starting to bring her out in public more. And I was like, oh yeah, she's so young. And then like, what? Like this feels so gross. It just feels so gross. And if you are a content creator and you're deciding to post a video and it's centered around judging a child, maybe delete from drafts. Like nobody's asking for that. That's weird.
It is weird. It is. I
like
totally agree.
The people who talk about like Kanye's kids, Kim's kids. I'm like, sure, you have curiosity, but like I don't think we need to be creating content around them.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like, we all have natural human curiosity, but sometimes you just have to take the logical brain and say, is this something that needs to be put out there? Is this something that we need to create conversation around? Like, I'm not asking for this.
Mm-hmm. And to the creator's point, like, it all comes back to, you know, these racist sort of this underhanded racism that's at play, where we're constantly criticizing people in the public eye that are people of color, that are black people, and attaching labels onto them, whether or not they are accurate. Again, just to fuel this project of eugenics, which is centered around, okay, disability, people who are disabled are lesser than, you know, people who are not disabled, which is entirely problematic. And I think some of the more gross comments that I found are just kind of like, oh, it's nice to see, you know, representation from people who have autism. I'm like,
Let's not go there. Let's not do this right now. Like, it's so weird.
I know.
Weirdo behavior.
It's incredibly
But I'm guessing they came from a more positive, supportive place. You know, especially like maybe they are themselves are a parent. And they just wanted they want that validation and representation.
But we don't have any confirmation.
No.
We don't like it's inappropriate to discuss. And this is why at the end of the day, I just feel like children on the internet, children in any kind of a, you know, huge public spotlight, and I'm not saying Beyonce did anything wrong here, but like this is why like I just kind of also find that really off-putting, because as soon as you kind of put, you know, vulnerable people like you know, children in front of a spotlight, things get weird really fast.
It's true.
And you know, I understand people who are hesitant to kind of, you know,
to protect their privacy. Their children.
People that like want to protect their children, I understand why.
I get it.
So there's another clip from a creator that I really enjoy, not talking about Roomie Carter, but also talking about like when supposedly other famous people have issue with other famous people's kids. This was just a really good read.
Okay.
So this message is going to be for tokyotoni in her comments regarding Blue Ivy being on tour with her mother. Tacky Tony, I implore you to find the nearest toothpaste stained mirror in that halfway house that you call a home, and I want you to stare at the reflection staring back at you. Now, I know it may be a tough, frightening sight, but I just want you to realize that you are projecting. Everything that you said about Blue Ivy is an absolute projection of your own life and things that actually happened to your own daughter, while you sit beside idle in a corner, pricking and poking yourself with used needles to keep a man.
Okay, we're gonna stop right there. But I think it's just, I think it's funny because Tokyotoni is another person who's problematic.
She's the mother of
Black China.
Black China,
yeah, and she's kind of, launched a lot of like negativity towards
her own
Beyonce
daughter. And her own daughter.
Yeah, her own daughter. But I feel like their relationship is, I don't know much about it. I think it's
weird. Yeah.
on and off. But she's launched a lot of like negativity towards
Beyonce.
Yeah, Beyonce, and specifically towards like Blue Ivy now, saying that she's too young to be dancing like this and like that, like in the public spotlight. I'm like,
but she's completely like age appropriate in her dance moves. There's nothing problematic in it. The way she's dressed,
I think,
or it's jealousy.
I think Tokyotoni and her entire enterprise. By the way, I saw like this video of her just massaging somebody, and somebody videotaping it like as if like this was one of the services that she provides. It looked like a terribly uncomfortable massage. But anyways, I think like Tokyotoni is like the epitome of like people that like need to mind their own business, and not throw, you know.
I think that's her brand though, is negativity.
Yeah,
like, people like her hot takes.
She really hates Beyonce for what reason?
I don't know.
I think it's to perpetuate the conspiracy that like she believes like Beyonce is a part of some satanic cult, which actually kind of, you can trace this conversation back to what, you know, Imani was saying about like certain narratives are always put on people of color and Black people specifically, as if like, oh, they're dancing in a way, or they're rapping about something, or they're singing about something that is evil or satanic in some way, right? There's some ritual behind it. And so it's weird for Tokyotoni, being Black as well, to constantly go after like this very successful Black woman who is, for the most part, it remained unproblematic and kind of out of like, you know, these like personal interviews where people really pick at you and hone in on you and target you. Yeah. So, you know, I think we need to think about that.
I saw and I don't know if this is even related, but like I saw a content creator talk about how Beyonce does not do interviews. Like she doesn't sit down and do these like, let me tell you about my life. And a lot of, like you said, it's like people who are protecting their
sensational
privacy.
Sort of like
they're
interviews
protecting
where
their
you can
privacy.
Be scandalized.
Like people like are guessing about her relationship, her children, but she actually never sits down and has these expose like style of interviews.
Even then, with her remaining out of the spotlight, there have been really terrible takes online saying like, oh, it's because she's illiterate. Again, we come back to this notion of, people say it's because she's illiterate. She needs her team to talk for her. She can't.
No, she used to do interviews all the time as Destiny's Child.
I know, but explain that to somebody who is like racist and like is never going to be content.
Oh, fair.
You know, so like
she was the one that was at the front all the time, and she was the one that was like clapping back at like rude interview questions all the time. Like
people forget. A lot of people don't know the legacy of Beyonce and even Destiny's Child.
She's been like, since she was super famous by the time she was 16, but she's been working since she was like a child.
And then you have people who are, you know, constantly praising Taylor Swift for, you know, creating generation for respectable young women, whatever the hell that means. Yeah. Leading back to this concept of like eugenics is very interesting and something that we should all like think about. This is critical race theory.
Yeah. Agree. Okay, so there was a time.
There was a time.
Actually, all times there have been fad diets. Have you ever done a like fad diet?
No, I think I
reveal yourself.
Reveal. Hat off. I think I juiced a few things.
I think.
And I think I definitely.
You're distancing yourself.
I definitely took a few supplements here and there. So I think like I'm sure those were advertised to me. Or I take Metamucil every day. Listen. I will tell anyone that will listen. Like Metamucil, like fiber, helps you be regular, but that also has a ripple effect. And it's this is not about for your heart health, for your cholesterol. Please get fiber in your system.
So back to fad diets have always been around, mostly aimed at women, and especially have been harmful to young women. Like when I talk about young women, girls too.
Body dysmorphia is rampant.
Like I think I read a study once, like girls as young as like 5 or 8 years old become super aware of their bodies and become uncomfortable very, very young. So it makes sense that this toxic perpetuation of the need to diet to fit into whatever the society standard of the decade is. And like, you know, we've fluctuated between, you know, body positivity to like, again, back to super skinny. It's like always going back and forth.
The pendulum
or a certain swings. Part of the body needs to be bigger, whether it's chest or butt or whatever. Like there's always some sort of aesthetic that women and especially young girls are being told that they have to fit into. And I want to take you back to a time around the year 2015, 2016. And this is when like raw veganism was really like taking off. And like, this is not to say that raw veganism is a bad thing. If it's their lifestyle.
Why is it gotta be raw?
I don't know. Like I didn't look into it all that much, but I think it's like because the nutrients are all
sure
are there. Like you're not cooking it off or it's not killing it.
It's not
off.
like tofurkey or just eggs.
Yeah. It's like once you cook something, like a lot of the nutrients like kind of leach out and whatever. So I'm guessing you get lots of fiber, you get lots of the original nutrients still contained in it. And then like raw veganism was just becoming this thing. I'm sure it existed before that, but like people were getting into it and everybody had juicers, everybody had spiralizers, mandolins,
zucchini pasta.
Yeah, zucchini pasta. Oh my god. Yeah, I was making zucchini. I had both. I think I ended up having, not I think, see, I'm doing the same thing. I definitely had
creating distance.
Two juicers.
Uh-huh.
You would buy a friggin' bag of apples, like a bag of carrots, a bag of celery, and you would have like
let me take this abundant amount of fruit
and fiber
and completely destroy it to create like 2 drops worth of liquid.
Right, like, and like eating celery like itself is a hydrating wonderful thing.
It's crunchy water, but it's got
fiber if
in
you
it.
eat it as is.
Fiber.
But we were doing crazy things. And during that time, as always, there have been influencers who have capitalized on the fears and insecurities of young women, and saying that they're
going strong.
They have the cure. And so now there's been, us as millennials, and even some like older Gen Z are looking back at some of these influencers who are huge, and some of them are still really popular today, and just like pointing the finger and just saying like, that was so messed up. So if any of you can remember that time, I'm sure you remember some of the really big names out there, and this creator is going to talk about like one of them.
I'll remember this banana. Where is she now? Because this woman entered my life at 13 years old and brainwashed me so eloquently into giving me body dysmorphia and eating disorder and then permanently stunning my growth. And she just dipped like nothing happened. Like, girl, where are you at? I just thought of her the other day because I was talking to my boyfriend about my eating disorder in middle school. And I was like, yeah, I would eat, probably like 9 bananas for lunch. And he looked at me like, what do you mean 9 bananas for lunch? And I was like, oh, well, what you know about raw till 4? It turns out nothing. He knew nothing about raw till 4. So I pulled up one of her what I eat in a day videos from 2016. Because what do you mean breakfast was 20 dates with water, lunch was 9 bananas, and then dinner was 5 pounds of boiled potatoes with like lemon juice on it. And my poor mother took me to therapy. She took me to dietitians, and I sat there and I looked them dead in the eyes and said, no, you're actually wrong. Your body doesn't need protein. It makes enough on its own. But she just, you had to be there.
I forgot about her, but then I remembered, like there was a diet where it was like 40 bananas a day or something crazy.
What?
Yeah, and there was these other creators who were...
Her family works for Dole.
Big potassium.
Dole.
Yeah, like
fullyrawkristina
was another one.
Why is she raw?
This one's freelee banana girl, and then they do another video about raw Christina, who was very similar, who was making these massive portions of like spiralized things and just like mowing down on that, and no protein, just
that's eating. Disordered eating for sure.
Yeah, because you're probably hungry and like you're tricking your body by having large portions of spiralized noodles and stuff. So I was just like, my young adulthood, my teenage years were all these like, do I need to take the green tea pills? Do I need to do the juice cleanse? The juice cleanse. Remember everybody was juice cleansing? Remember there was like delivery juice cleansers?
Delivery juice cleanses?
Yeah, I remember. So we live in a metropolitan city, and I remember people were getting juice, like, because remember you couldn't make it and then have it tomorrow. It had to be like fresh because you are juicing it, and the longer it stays in the fridge, the nutrients are like Like it was a whole thing. People were
So wait, what's the delivery? Wait. So they would deliver
like say six bottles or 8 bottles, and it's like have the celery, spinach, lemon in the morning, then have the almond banana for lunch, and then your dinner is like, and those were cleanses, and it would be multiple days. People would do these, but it's a starvation diet, by the way. Like all of those were starvation diets.
This is all to fuel disordered eating. And listen,
and that's what he was saying.
As a person in the room with cancer who has like a very serious health concern, all jokes aside, I've learned so much about what it means to truly have a fully nutritional diet and to stay on top of that, just to, you know, make sure your body is strong. And let me tell you, the number one thing that you're going to end up having to scrap if you go through something serious is a lot of these supplements, is a lot of these like superfoods that are considered healthy for your gut, your diet, whatever. All of it's kind of a bunch of crap. And none of it's been rigorously studied. A lot of it kind of like has science that is very much built on a house of cards. And again, you need to return to just eating whole foods and also get your nutrition where you can get it. And if that's something that's like more sweet, more savory, that you enjoy, that makes you feel good, that's even more important than, you know, I don't know, eating 100 bananas.
And also I wonder, and nobody brought this up, a lot of these fad diets are very centered around these very like bland Western ideas of diet.
I know where this is going.
Versus like in Asia where everyone's skinny, like skinny, they eat rice, but there's all these like no carb
Not that
diets.
We're saying skinny is good.
No, but they're very thin, but it's like in the face, like flies
There's
in the face.
There's a different measure of health.
No, but
less obesity.
But the diet like is like flies in the face of all of these fad diets was like lots, like there's rice, there's meat, there's like they eat a lot of veggies.
There's so many spices. There's so much.
Natural medicine, like natural medicine that like you are supplementing your food with spices that are good for you.
Yeah, that are also enjoyable to eat.
And these ones are, and then the ones that we're all like paying millions of dollars to these influencers is like, here's your printable PDF of eat like a bunch of celery, bananas, and you'll lose weight.
This is crazy.
10 boiled eggs and a spinach juice. I'm like, eat delicious and
I know.
And what works for your body. So I'm not saying anything about like raw veganism in general, because I know some people who do it and like that's their lifestyle.
But sometimes
and it works for them.
the brand is hurting because of some of the people that get behind it and unfortunately get famous for all the wrong reasons. Yeah, look after your nutrition. Yeah.
I love kale. That's my favorite food of the week.
Kale, charred spinach, arugula. All of them can be delicious. But I'm not putting them into a juicer anytime soon.
No, I gave those 2 juicers up. They were expensive.
All right, so a man goes for a run and he is shirtless and he crosses.
Sounds very true crime setup.
I know. Well, he crosses paths with a woman who, God forbid, does not look at him, and then so he gets on the internet to tell everyone about. The world is going to a really dark place where nobody's communicating.
They're on their phones.
Yeah, everyone's on their phones. Yeah. Nobody's talking to each other. Nobody's looking at each other. And I want you to get into this video and then we'll talk about it.
The internet was not for it.
I'm walking towards this girl on the sidewalk. God forbid we make eye contact.
Do some men know that there's a reason why women, when they are out, when you see them do this, it's giving, do not approach them, leave them alone, and don't bother them. But I guess you would not know this, because how dare she not interact with you when you are on your walk, shirtless, walking around, and you're giving her attention and she's not reciprocating it. Because just because you see a woman on the street does not mean that you're deserving of her time, her space, and also her attention. It is not that hard for you to conceptualize this. And I think it's crazy that you posted this video thinking that, yeah, we're gonna side with you, but it was the way that you actually went about saying it, which is very entitled, and then again, shows why women collectively, when they're out, they don't want to interact with men such as yourself.
Oh, I feel this like in my soul.
Yeah.
Like I feel this so much in my soul. I have explained to a lot of men in my lives that women have this incredible, like, developed peripheral vision.
Yeah.
Because we can never make eye contact. You can't make eye contact unless you want to have somebody approach you.
True.
And you're like, I'm just on the bus, or I'm just going for a walk. I don't want someone to approach me and have a conversation with me. I feel like, especially that kind of entitlement to attention happened a lot. And we discussed this during like COVID, when men were like starved of attention.
For attention, yeah.
And they were just like, strangers, give me. And so many times I had to tell like my partner, like, waiting for elevators was so painful because men of all ages would want to strike up small talk. I'm like, I don't want to small talk with somebody, and that sounds like really like mean and rude, but I'm in my home. I'm heading to my home. I don't want to talk to you about, do I live in this building? I don't want to talk to you about what's my dog's name. I don't want to give you any information, because my partner was very much like, oh, what? Like, why? I was like, I don't want to give information to a stranger. Why?
Because more often than not, it's going to lead to a situation that you don't want to be in.
No.
And we've heard so many stories, countless, about how dangerous it gets. And then even when it doesn't get quote unquote dangerous, it'll get very, very pestering and annoying. Like, I just asked you a question.
Yes.
Or, like, I'm not trying to date you. Like, I don't care if you have a boyfriend.
Yeah.
It just gets very intrusive, and like, it diminishes, it's either going to make you feel bad about yourself, or you have to then hold space for somebody else who's annoying, who's just taking energy from you, or potentially something dangerous.
Oh yeah. I found it so strange. Like, yes, you're in like these space, like, she's clearly walking in her neighborhood.
She's minding her own business.
Do I want to be approached by a man who then might follow me home?
Yeah,
you are not safe when you're closest to your home. Like, so many times, if somebody was talking to me on public transit, I would be so nervous, because I'm like, if they talk to me, then they're gonna follow me, and like, okay, I can't go home, I gotta go somewhere else. And this girl's probably thinking the same thing. She's like, if this man talks to me, I have to somehow like not head home so he doesn't know where I live, because he might feel rejected. Like,
she owes him nothing. No. And the audacity of him, like, he's also like got this really annoying smug look to his face.
I know. Okay, guys.
Which is like such a punchable face.
Yeah.
But like, to get on like, the internet and say like, people are just not wanting to connect anymore. I'm like, you think about like, again, you talked about women's like excellent developed peripheral vision. Like, she probably saw that like there's a man who's taking up a bunch of space, who's probably, he wants attention. Correct. I think we can all agree on this. He wants attention. He got on the internet to complain about not receiving attention. So he was probably trying to, project God knows what out there. Yeah. And he's shirtless on top of that, which like, that's not going to make women any more comfortable.
No, I'm feeling unsafe. I'm feeling like this is going to get a bit slimy. Yes. I'm like, I don't want anything to do with it. Even if you're a totally nice guy, I have the context cues of maybe you're not. And then he proved it.
Then he goes on to complain basically about how people just don't say hi anymore or acknowledge each other's presence. I'm like, you're gross. And we can all see through it.
No, like, trying to make the argument as if it was like in good faith of like, society can be better if we connect more. But we, like you said, we can all see that was not the intention. I hate that. I hate that so much. And like, as I've gotten older, like I've spoken to women as well who are aging gracefully with me. Like, you do become a little bit less like, you become more invisible to these types of interactions, like the older you get. But so it's the most dangerous when you're younger and men are wanting your attention, and you not yet have enough experience or confidence to like safely remove yourself from these things. And it's only once you're like much older and you see these things happening to other women, it's like so stressful, and it just like pisses me off. Don't piss me off.
Boo.
Boo. Put on a shirt. Okay, we're gonna talk about tariffs.
Oh, yay!
Let's
Favorite
talk about
topic.
Trade wars. Yay! No, we're not.
Let's get political. Political.
That's a good song. So we're going to talk about, yes, tariffs, like as many of us are experiencing because of the tariffs put in place, the cost of things are going up. And yes, all of those things, like that's the boring topic. But what I found really interesting, I came across this content creator who talked about how the reaction to tariffs, especially the ones that were being imposed on China and then China imposing on the US in this like trade war that's been happening, is a lot of Chinese creators were trying to help out like Americans and say, here's where you can get that stuff from China and you can get it for cheaper. And I saw stuff from like Zara, Zara, Aritzia, Lululemon, Hermes, Prada, like all of these.
Of course, China is like the largest manufacturer in the world.
Yeah,
that makes sense to me.
And the exposure of like this idea of made in China, and you know, like it can be offensive when people are like, "Oh, that's made in China." It's supposed to mean it's cheap, it's a low quality. It's, you know, it's not like when you see made in America, you know, made in Canada, made in like these other made in, really is supposed to be like, this is quality. And basically it's been exposed that all of these premium luxury brands are actually made in China. And so we need to rethink, what does that actually mean to us, and what do we value and why are we paying these premiums? But this creator, you know, breaks it down very, very nicely.
The Chinese takedown of luxury goods is wild right now, because luxury goods are a huge source of soft power for the West. Soft power is power through things like culture, music, even language. Like US TV shows, that's a form of soft power because it makes the US aspirational and desirable in some ways. So with luxury brands, Fendi, Prada, Gucci, you know, these Birkins, it creates this aspiration for the West, or aspiration to be European in a way, showing that Europe is this gold standard of quality. But when China's revealing that 80% of anything you buy that's Gucci is made in China, that over 60% of anything that you buy from Prada is made in China, that the only difference is that they send it over to Europe and then they stitch on a made in France or made in Italy little label. It's the ultimate pulling the curtain on the wizard in The Wizard of Oz and showing that there actually is no real magic and power in the person who's controlling Oz. I think it's going to be really interesting because there is such a stigma of something that's made in China. There's this perception of lesser quality in the West, but when you reverse that paradigm, when you show that all these goods that you thought were better because they came from Italy or France or wherever, when actually, in actuality, it comes from China, you're forcing consumers to reckon with why they make choices. So if consumers are going to start questioning the perceived worth of luxury goods, consumers are going to then realize that luxury brands are just high markup middlemen.
Yep.
They're just peddling an idea of something versus an actual quality good. And you can just then cut them out and go to the source. And so I think what China is doing right now, by shifting this perception of soft power, by taking back soft power, by showing real power in infrastructure and manufacturing, we're going to see a real flip in a lot of things, whether it comes to labor market, whether it comes to manufacturing, whether it comes to who buys luxury goods and perception of luxury as well. And so, I don't know, I'm just in it for the ride here.
So interesting.
I've been getting a lot of content from Chinese creators that like will either come on live or they'll film videos of like doing a bit of an expose of how a luxury handbag is made. And it's like soup to nuts. Stuff. It's the complete bag. It is. They would have you think that, okay, maybe
you're like, this costs $42 to make.
Yeah, these Western countries, maybe like they import like a few things from like an Asian country and then they do the rest. But there's this like handcrafted some guy that looks like,
you know, elf making the shoe.
Who's Pinocchio's father? Giuseppe? Giuseppe. But like he's this craftsman who's like very delicately, you know, doing this, and it's very like
at
artisanal.
Night, you know, crouched over like in a workshop.
And I agree with a lot of these creators that like for so long, the West has demonized China.
Yeah.
China, we're even seeing a lot of like the travel girlies expose like the greatest parts of China and other Asian countries that are like, surprise, surprise, not living in poverty. You know, that they have some of the most technologically advanced and innovative countries in the world. Have access to such great infrastructure that we can't even like, you know, stand up a highway or public transit that doesn't like break down or have like issues with it.
I was on the bus and it was such a terrible experience. I was like, this bus stinks.
So now we're seeing this like sort of like demonization that the West has constantly put on China, just sort of like come crumbling down. And like we're seeing it with these like luxury goods. Hey, you can just get this made if you work directly with like maybe a Chinese importer or Chinese you know, textile, somebody who works in textiles or directly with a creator to like get this exact same thing made with the exact same level of and quality of materials for
people
a lot
are
cheaper.
Like, this is the original manufacturer of a Birkin, so this is how the Birkin is made. Here, do you want the Birkin? It just won't have the label on it. And people are like contacting and working with like
it's not even bootleg. It's not even like what people might assume is like, oh, that's like secondhand or whatever. No. It is the real thing. It is that thing that you want.
And so I had to sit with this thought, and you know, oh, like I was kind of getting pulled into that wave. I was like, maybe I want to buy it. Maybe I want to buy like it. And then I had to think, well, why am I still wanting to buy this thing for the perceived, you know, like luxury
whose
ID?
Whose gaze is this really for?
Right. And if now you've told me that it's actually worth 5%, like it costs like 5% of what the West has been charging to make it, then what was I valuing it for if it wasn't like craftsmanship of a little, like you said, is like the puppeteer wasn't making it. So I've been sitting with that and thinking about like, why do I consume luxury goods? And then if it is true, and it seems to be very true, that China makes it, is it still something I want to purchase? Or is it now the whole idea of luxury is just like not a thing in my brain?
It's because exclusivity with like a giant markup made getting into this space of like perceived luxury and perceived higher status.
Right.
It created a barrier to entry.
Right.
And now the barriers are kind of lifted. So it's interesting. But I care less about luxury goods. I also don't care much about name brands. I hate when actually I'm wearing something that has a name. You can enjoy it if you want to. I've always had a little bit of like repulsivity towards it, but I will say China manufactures for 90+% of the world. And so you're going to get all different kinds of quality. So stop like using the one or two examples of stuff that was maybe a little bit more flimsy, because you can have like a million examples of stuff that was manufactured in North America that's equally, if not, you know, worse quality. I think people need to give a little bit more grace to, you know, this country that is a manufacturing powerhouse that creates so many materials. You don't think some of them are going to turn out to be not so great? Like they have different grades of that. Like we know that they make all of the luxury goods, so.
Like if they have for decades now have been the, like you said, the manufacturing powerhouse of the world, a lot of Asia, because it's not just China too, it's like India, it's like some of the other Southeast Asian countries as well. It's like you don't think they've developed the technology to create also higher, like you think they're still using old rusted machines from the 60s? Like no, they've advanced.
Y'all need to see how, you know, some of these Asian countries, how people are living, because
like
it's
robots,
night and day from what you know, us in North America have been led to believe.
AirPods are made in like India. Like I don't know if you knew that. Like robots are made in like China. Like we're not making them.
There's a reason why these tariffs are failing.
I know. See, and that wasn't boring. I didn't talk too much about politics. No. I talked about bags. You want to get some bags and AirPods? Like we can get them.
I bet you there's probably a few exporters out in China that are on commission or creating luxury bags for people in North America and shipping them directly to them.
That's what I've been getting. It's Chinese suppliers. I was getting all that content, and that's why I was also getting this content, was like Chinese suppliers, because I guess I'm a girly who shops, off of like stuff I see on TikTok. A bunch of Chinese exporters and manufacturers and suppliers were exposing, oh, you like Lululemon? Shop at Chinese name.
Yeah.
And then they were actually breaking down the steps of how you can do it.
All right. So you love them, you hate them, but influencers are constantly going to go viral. That's what they do. And
it's in the name.
Yeah. They're definitely influencing something. So recently, a lot of influencers, a lot of NYC, New York influencers have been coming under a lot of heat because of the lifestyle that they've been promoting.
Okay.
And how it's slowly but surely gentrifying New York. So it's causing actual real world consequences.
Okay.
Where we're seeing what this creator, whose video I'm going to show you, calls the epcotification,
yeah,
or the campusification of New York City.
And if you haven't been to Epcot, it's like a Disney specific park that takes little countries and it like makes it it's a small world. Like you can buy like a t-shirt with like Canada on it, or like you can have a drink from like Germany. It's all these like little kitschy experiences.
Yeah, like Stepford
Very
Wives.
sanitized. It's very sanitized and mass produced.
Epcot stands for Experimental Prototype.
Oh, I didn't know.
Community of Tomorrow.
I never even thought about what Epcot. I thought
Which
it was a made up name like Google.
Yeah, which sounds very like robotic and AI world. Anyways, get into the video and then we'll discuss.
Into it.
It must be nice to be a West Village girl. I'm a diehard New Yorker, and I obviously have thoughts about this New York Magazine article, but I really want to use it as an opportunity to talk about what I've deemed campusification and epcotification of New York City. That is how wealthy white people from the suburbs have effectively transformed Lower Manhattan into their own glorified theme park / college campus. Epcot refers to the fictional neighborhood in Disney World. Obviously, this has been happening in New York for a while. Mayor Bloomberg really contributed to the commodification of the city, but obviously social media has exacerbated the issue tenfold. One influencer transplant they interviewed for this article literally describes being in New York as being back on campus and feeling like a freshman again. We can see why. I mean, Lower Manhattan directly facilitates a pipeline from random colleges to the city. In fact, oftentimes these transplants describe New York as a post-grad town. But ironically, these people often want the best of both worlds when they move to New York. They want the sanitized, homogenous, sheltered attributes of their hometown while deriving clout from a culture they've had no part in contributing to. They want a piece of the NYC cool girl pie without engaging with the pre-existing communities. They're really just engaging with each other. This quote from the article describes the branding of the West Village on social media as made legible for women fresh out of a Big Ten school. The Blank Street call out is sending me because my last 3 videos are literally about how evil Blank Street is. This idea of making New York palatable or legible, as said here, for the type of person who wouldn't otherwise live here is very interesting. The social media branding of the West Village is essentially signaling, oh, don't worry, you won't have to change your lifestyle at all or be around undesirables.
So, Max, when you think about New York City culture, New York City influence, what do you think about?
A lot of like Black and Latin influence, the gay scene artists. Like I think of
multicultural
museums. Yeah, I think of like just a place that has a lot of like culture to it, and I would never have thought of it as like a suburban like town, college town. And that new description, because obviously I haven't been to New York in like maybe 10 years. This doesn't make me want to go.
Yeah. So this is like a very recent problem that's been like mounting with like a lot of these people.
Like you've made it vanilla, you've made it plain,
Yeah, and a lot of these people that are doing this is like, as this creator mentioned, are graduating from these like schools that Ivy League that may be in New York City, and they're basically just extending their college stay and turning it into their full-time job and full-time living experience, where they get these high-paying jobs. And they're not very common jobs. They are like and you select like marketing,
finance,
agency, finance side of things, and they end up working in these places and contributing to the gentrification of the city. And also,
I think like pushing out, like she was talking about, pushing out the communities that made it interesting, made people want to go there for a vibe. No, I'm just like, in case people don't know what that means is. Like when you asked me like what do I think of, so now probably the original communities who were there no longer are there. So what am I going there for if it's a bunch of transplants? Like they're not New Yorkers.
Yeah, exactly. And so like it's very interesting when this creator specifically says that like they somehow want to take clout for a culture that they were never really a part of, or never really helped contribute to. So New York is associated with like a sort of toughness.
Yeah, that's
you know,
right.
People that have an edge because they are artists, because they are living on the fringe of like, society, and they're marginalized in some sort of way, that they're not, there is always a greater sort of like a poverty gap, like a gap in, the haves and the have-nots with New York. And it's really about how the have-nots have kind of built the city with culture, with community programs.
Like, well, you see that with Brooklyn now.
Yeah.
Like, Brooklyn is
hipster
Brooklyn.
Town.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so like, it's this sort of, okay, let me step into this space and say like, hey, I'm from New York. I'm from New York City. But, not really taking part in the actual culture that has been the backbone of the city.
I saw this like comic recently, and it's not on this particular topic, but I think it fits. And it was basically like this square, and there was these two little pink characters sitting inside of it. And then there was a bunch of gray characters on the outside, and they're like, hey, and they're like, let us in. And they're like, but this is like our space. And then they all come in, and the two little pink dots are in there. And then now one of the gray people inside of the box are like, you don't fit in here.
Oh.
And I think it's that.
Yeah.
It's like, when you see your whole neighborhood transforming, like, you no longer fit in, whether like financially or culturally, because you see that all the time. It's where, a specific demographic comes and gentrifies a neighborhood, and to make it so that, as she said, you don't have to change your lifestyle. Don't worry, we're going to have yet another bakery on the corner.
Starbucks.
We're going to have another place that makes matcha using oat milk. Don't worry. Like, there's going to be another boutique that sells
gluten-free
cashmere scarves. I don't know what.
Gluten-free scarves. But so I'm glad you brought up that point, because I want you to watch this video as well.
Oh. Every time I come to New York, I'm reminded of one thing. Why are there so many men just lurking? Just standing outside of their homes?
Hey guys, you guys, I was in New York City and saw brown men hanging out in their neighborhoods. I never saw this on Sex and the City. Is it normal?
I think this is the epitome of like, they even talk about like,
I'm uncomfortable. Yeah. Get out of here.
The slick back hair bun, the iced matcha latte or other, caffeinated drink in hand. The shades, the sometimes long coats. I mean, these are stereotypes.
This vintage
thrifted,
repurposed hoodie that probably costs like $300.
Yeah. Parents, meanwhile, are rich, living in some other part of the country.
Yeah.
And like, why is this town feel so weird? Well, because maybe you're not used to living in New York, which is supposed to be for people, that, have helped to make the city, that live at a different speed, that have had to.
Yeah. Like,
so
I moved out of like the downtown core and more into like a more like suburban-ish neighborhood, and I just felt so uncomfortable. Like, I felt so uncomfortable. It was a culture shock to do the opposite of like, I went from like a very diverse, dense with people, to now like there's lots of space, and I don't see many faces that look like me, but everybody's friendly. It's fine.
It's also people who can afford to like live in a house, right? So like, there's lots of different people living many different kinds of lifestyles, in these big busy cities, right? And you see a lot of like different shades of reality. And then in the suburbs, it's very curated. It's people that can afford to live there. It's people that have kind of homogenized in a way. And
I feel like I'm somewhat part of this gentrification that's happening around my neighborhood as well, is because like people can't afford to live, in bigger spaces in the city. So then they start moving a little bit outside, but there were always original communities. And there are specific ethnic communities that live in my neighborhood, and there's like a really rich like Bengali, and there's a big Greek like neighborhood, and I just like wonder how long it's gonna take until like they're all kind of pushed out. Like, they're building condos on the main streets now over down here, so more people will push out here.
Of course.
And I'm like, we're part of the problem, but it's sad when you think of like culturally, a lot of the reasons why people move to neighborhoods is to be part of a culture, a community, and then inadvertently push them out. Yeah. Because things are being built around them.
Not to dwell on this too long, but there's also kind of an erasure of history, of history, of like what this place used to be like and then the more manicured version of it that's kind of like rolled over the old. And there's this like fear of like forgetting what, you know, a place like New York City or a place like other places around the world that have been gentrified, you know, were like before they were taken over. Guys, get your fiber. I think fiber intake is really important.
That was that was the number one message. If you missed everything, if you missed everything, fiber.
If nothing else, take home a tank of Metamucil.
Just scooping. That's what we're having right now.
Yeah, psyllium husk.
Let's take a sip.
Ooh. You don't know it, but we've had to take several breaks.
Yeah, that was the power of editing.
You can only imagine what we got up to during those breaks with all that fiber built up in our system.
We're taking turns. Okay. So we talked about, fiber. We talked about love. We talked about gentrification, made in China.
Okay. But don't forget, like this video, subscribe to our channel, and ring that notification bell, I think it's over here somewhere, to find out when new content of ours goes live.
Yeah, and make sure you follow us on TikTok at Scroll Interrupted Show, and you can follow us on Instagram at Scroll Interrupted. Easy to remember.
Lovely. Okay, let's get out of here. Bye.